All right, guys. So, welcome back to Inherent Success Podcast, where this is your guide to self discovery. On this podcast, you'll see more of amazing people that are doing amazing things in their community, making an impact. It'll be a little bit about business, self discovery, but more important is transformational stories. So, for this episode, we have my good friend Kevin Yang. Welcome to the show. How are you
Thank you.
feeling?
Thank you for having me, Emma. Well, I'm honored to be here. I'm honored to help serve and make an impact in your audience and the ways that I can support them. Excited
I
for this
love that.
chat. Yeah.
Yes, yes. And guys, just so you know, I met Kevin at a recent workshop. We're still in it, still grinding. But I met Kevin and he was just like this bright light in, so far in our
Thank you.
container. No,
Yeah.
absolutely. He came up to me,
Thank you.
he introduced himself. He knew that I was getting this podcast started. And yeah, and I'll let him explain and give a little bit of his background. But Kevin, my friend, so
Yes.
this podcast is heavily focused on transformational stories and
Hmm.
how you're making an impact in your community and in the world so far. Now, I would love to hear your story. Like, where are you from? Like, what brought you to Phoenix, Arizona? So tell me all
Yeah.
the goods. Yeah.
Absolutely. Okay, let's dive right into it. But first, I want to actually touch back on one point you mentioned, how I approached you during this group about like transformation, making impact, because I believe in life, it's all about repetition. How you do one thing is how you do everything. And when I saw that you had a heart of service, hey, I want to connect with this person. What's she up to? She's up to a big game, and I'm up to a big game. And together, iron sharpens iron. We can play on a bigger leveling field. And here we are right now. So just want to appreciate and acknowledge you for that and then open to that connection. And to answer the second part of the question on podcast is where I'm from. I was born in Shanghai, China, spent there for the first 8 years of my life. Absolutely had amazing childhood. Spent up on a my time on the farm. I hang out with water buffaloes. I don't have a whole lot of memories, but the ones I did were very peaceful, very blissful. My parents had always been in the States and they were getting their financial foundation ready. They were going through college, getting their degrees or whatnot. I stayed with my grandparents for the first 8 years. Afterwards, moved to the States, had a pretty humble upbringing. And that started the journey in Phoenix, Arizona, what Emma mentioned earlier, and going through school. And in that journey, I came to kind of realize that I'm quite the rule breaker as a kid growing up. I'm never the one that kind of follow everything to the T. If there's you tell me one way to do it, I'll probably find my own way, sometimes for the better, and majority of the time is for the worst. But nevertheless, that gave me a very exciting story. I started my first business actually at the age of 16. And this is one of the most turning point cornerstone of my life. We talk about transformation and how I was a rule breaker. So growing up in a very humble family and in my early years we had food stamps, things got a little better in my later years as I went through high school. But one of the things that really stood out was that everybody wanted the yearbook. You remember those big old yearbook that's like 60, $80 back then. It's probably more now. And that was a lot of money for my parents back then. Imagine getting peanut butter jelly sandwich. And it got to a point where my mom just said, I know you wanted this. She sat me down, but we just couldn't afford it. And I thought to myself, well, this is just a book. Why not kind of make my own book? And that's when the idea starts spurring. So 16 years old, and I took a media class. They start giving you elective classes in school at that time. So I took a media class, and in that class, I came to realize, wow, there are all these fancy computers in the in the school laboratory that I might be able to leverage, do something with it. So I got the idea of getting a camera off of Craigslist, a used video camera. So saved up on my part-time job back then, the wage was $5.50 an hour. That also kind of tells you how old I am. Even though that was only about like a little bit under 20 years ago.
I
It's
remember
crazy how
that.
fast, yeah, inflation just kind of jumped up over the years. And
Hmm.
so I saved up what money I had, bought a used camera, and I just went around school like recording everything. And then that's when the magic light bulb happened. I came to realize, wait a minute, I'm competing with a paper format of a copy. And back then, this was when DVD first came out. You can burn the DVDs onto actual DVD itself. So I thought, well, rather than just having this video and put on like a cassette tape distributor, what if I just go to Best Buy, buy a bunch of these, and then use the school computer, burn the copies to the DVD? And long story short, that's exactly what I did. And so I got my friends together. So, hey, what are we doing on Friday? Hey, instead of going out partying, hey, let's go to Best Buy so we can buy blank DVDs. I'm like, why? Come on, guys. I need you to do me this favor. So I got them on board. And some of them that in that process, obviously I had no money, but I promised each, hey, if you help me out, I'll give you like 20, $30 when this like movie gets all released and all said and done. But shortly after, I start burning the copies of the DVD at school. And once I filmed enough content, and that became like a 30 minutes of all the content copied onto the DVD. And during class, everybody's kind of doing their thing. I'm sitting in the back room hogging up 5 computers. I literally had an assembly line. I pop a DVD in it, hit copy, hit copy 5 times. And that was my media class for the junior year of my school. Then fast forward towards the end of the year when everything's ready for distribution, I would then wear a T-shirt that says that, hey, skip your lunch, buy the DVD, because everybody would bring $5 to lunch at that time. That was the lunch money. People would buy, they'll buy a double cheeseburger, they buy like a Coke and fries with that. And I thought to myself, well, this cost me like $2.50 to make. If I just do that, people can skip their lunch and buy the DVD as opposed to paying $70, $80 for a yearbook. That sounds like a huge competitive edge. And then fast forward towards my senior year, when it's all said and done, and I sold close to 2,000 copies, and then bought my first car in cash right after that. And I'll never forget that, because it was in that journey that really helped me jumpstart my entrepreneurship journey, that jumpstart my self-confidence, that jumpstart this ability to believe in the possibility of dream. So you want to hear a transformational story? That was one childhood memory that I deeply treasure even to this day, because I think to any entrepreneurs, they'll tell you that even the ones that start serial businesses, it's always the first one that's the sweetest. It's always that first memory. And the memory we created with my friends and I, and how we're so rambunctious, just breaking all the rules, making an impact, competing against a paper format yearbook by providing a DVD back then. I'll never forget that.
I love that. I love to hear that you started your entrepreneur journey at a very young age. It's very interesting to hear that, because
Yeah,
of
thank you.
course, yeah, of course, you're welcome. Yeah, I definitely want to acknowledge you for that, because, in your adolescence, you're very young. You're kind of like all over the place. Everyone's journey is different. And that's why I love hearing everyone's story, because the story is what makes the success, is what really makes you, builds character.
Mm,
So 100%. So my question to you is, because you started when you were you were 18,
mhm.
and you did mention a little bit about your environment, your family.
Yeah.
Now, what was that one thing, that one pivotal moment that made everything clicked, or that you realized that you have a special gift? You recognize that at a very young age, so it's not very typical. So was it like an event? Was it how you felt at that moment? Was it, what kind of inspiration did you find and you realize, hey, like, I can actually make money. I can be a businessman? Because a lot of
Mhm.
children, for me, I was not a school person at all. I was
That's
a
two of
rebel.
us. Yeah,
I
that's two
was,
of us.
yeah, I was a rebel. But it's very interesting because, you hear a lot of transformational stories where, CEOs and all of these really high level people, they share how they were really horrible in school. And it's a unique type of being, because I
Mhm.
remember when I was little, like I remember those leadership qualities. I've always wanted to lead a group, and I've always wanted to get creative and all that stuff. So what was a pivotal moment for you where you're like, wow, I believe I can do this. This is my path.
Yeah, that's such a good question. And I think there are so many, but for the sake of time, I'll narrow in on two, really.
This is
When
your
you
floor,
talk about, hey,
Kevin.
Yeah, when you talked about like school not being part of the system or whatnot, not be conforming to the rule, I think there's a direct correlation for people that are embracing breaking rules and entrepreneurship because I'm not obviously you got to do the right thing, you got to do the ethical things, you got to do what's legal. All of that's important. But when it comes down to breaking some of the boundaries, if you're able to kind of see another path, if you see it like a disruption in the market, you're essentially kind of breaking the norm, per to speak. So the more practice of that you have under your belt growing up, I think that helps you become entrepreneur in the sense that, hey, I don't have to do things always this way just because everybody else done things that way. And secondly, I'll go back to what you mentioned about entrepreneurship at a young age were some pivotal moments. One I would also say is I do think for children that grow up with this mindset that they have nothing to lose, because I see a lot of kids nowadays, they grow up with this mindset that, well, I got to protect my online image. I got to protect my reputation. What's people going to think of me? And it was a bit fortunate growing up for me that we didn't have social media. Instagram didn't came into a thing until I was much later in my teens. And by then, your kind of childhood's over at that point. You're getting into college at that point. But for me, it was just understanding that, hey, I came from a very modest background. I really don't have anything to lose. What do I have to lose? And having that mindset, embracing that mindset and ability to say, okay, let's just try something new, that really helps out. And more repetition, again, you get under your belt later in life, you start seeing pattern, having pattern awareness, like, okay, these are the areas I'm taking too much risk. These are the areas that, I don't know if that's going to work out. Essentially, when you first started, you don't quite know. But once you do enough of it, you start have this intuition to know that where you should take risks, where you should take bet on yourself, where you should step back and then just say, I'm not going to get involved in it because that's not my arena. That's not my battle. Maybe that's God's battle. Maybe that's somebody else's battle.
I agree 100%. And
Yeah.
sometimes kids, people are late bloomers. The reason why I
Yeah.
say late
Hmm.
bloomers because it took me up to the age of 21 to realize that I needed to change my life and I know that I'm capable of more.
Mm. Hmm.
Sometimes people it takes a little longer than others, and that can be influence, that can be just there's so many things that goes on with that subject when it comes to kids. Because, for example, for me, I grew up in a really tough environment. I didn't have
Hmm.
any discipline. There was no structure. There was no nurturing, a lot of neglect, a lot of toxicity,
Hmm.
to sum it all
Wow.
up. So
Yeah.
I had to figure out things on my own.
Mm.
And, people can easily, and this is where, as I got older and I had my son. I always say this. I had my son when I was 18, but he was a blessing. He is a
Mm.
blessing in
I love that.
disguise
Mm.
because God was like, you need this baby because you get to turn your life around for this baby.
Mm.
And when I had him, it took me a few years because, I separated with his dad and then I was trying to
Mhm.
figure my life out. But then I realized that no, wait, I get to be a good role model for him. I get to
Mm.
break the family chain.
Love
So
that.
there are different aspirations that people have when it comes to transformation and changing their life and tapping into their truest potential. I always say that people don't change through obligation, they change through inspiration.
Mm.
So it has to take a certain event. That's why I asked you. It takes a certain event, a certain moment, a certain aha moment, like, oh wow, like, you know what? I can go this route. Like this is, I'm
Yeah,
capable of this, you know?
totally.
Yeah. So that's awesome that you realize that
Hmm.
at such a young age. That's a beautiful thing. Yeah. So now you started this business and
Yeah.
so did you pivot to something else? Like what? Okay, so what happened after you started the DVDs and all of that? So
Yeah.
what did you do afterwards? Like what happened? Like what was the hardest thing that you had
Sure.
to overcome? Yeah.
Yeah. Great question on the follow up on that. And because this was such like a friend based group, I wouldn't even really call this a business. I would call this a project. I would just say, even back then, because we didn't really know much about business. It's 17-year-old kids. We just, here's a project. We're going to make some money out of it. And we're going to sell the DVDs around school. And that turned out to be a huge blessing at a very young age. And once the senior year kind of turned around, people start going different ways in high school, right? And when that kind of happened, my the core group, the core foundation that, hey, this person's going to do this, that person's going to do that, start separating. So we just end up folding everything. And really, it's because also the target audience in the market was so school based. I knew I was going to go on the next stage of my life. So we folded that. And then to this day, we still get together as friends once in a while and say, hey, remember that time we did this? We pulled that off. Yeah, that was
I
still
love
pretty cool.
that.
So memories of a lifetime that you'll never forget. And you look back in life when you're 80, 90 years old, it's the memories like those with the people that you're really close to that are truly priceless. So I guess to answer your question on that end is it's what's the price tag to a priceless memory? You can't really put a price tag on that. But fast forward, I then went through, got my undergrad, and at that point, I really want to get into finance. I thought it'd be really cool. I've got a very analytical mind. I really enjoy the stock market back then. So I wanted to work on Wall Street. Well, being in Arizona, that's not exactly known for that. And really, there were a few big players back then. And there's obviously more competition now, but really the big players back then was like Wells Fargo, Merrill Lynch, and some of these just big corporate that had a financial wealth management, wealth management in the state. Those were the big players. So I thought, well, I love to work for one of those firms and then just get my experience. Graduated 24 and I have no experience under my belt. And I reached out, I looked for like experience on the resume. And it's like, well, I don't really qualify for anything here except that I'm a human being that I can hit a submit button. That's about the only thing I qualify for at that age. Just got my degree, no working experience. Yeah, not much to say there. Yeah. So then I realized, well, what I have to lose? And again, going back to that mindset. So there was an office in Sun City, Arizona, Merrill Lynch office. And I went in one day and I went out to the cashier. I was like, oh, are you someone's son? Are you someone's kid? They thought I was a client's kid of a client. I said, well, I'd love to get a job here. I'd love to work in the stockbroker world. I'd love to learn. And how do I get started in that process? And they kind of tell me, well, maybe you can apply online and kind of just get a typical corporate talk, if you will. They were so not used to that. And then something inside me clicked. I realized that, on the dialer, because at that time I also worked a night shift at a call center just to put some money on the table. It's just kind of like a first job, or transition job, if you will. One of the things I learned working in a call center is that every dialer's number is the same. What I mean by that is this: you can have, let's say, like 602, 500, 1000. That would be the first person in the cubicle. The second person in the cubicle will be 1001, 1002, and so forth for the entire company roster. And that's how the dialer system was set up back in those days. So I came to realize that if I just called every number, and maybe I can do it at night, maybe I can get like the director of the company. Maybe I can get like the head honcho. And sure enough, I still remember to this day, it was a number ending in 43. I was calling people after hours, so it wouldn't interrupt them during. So I would call like 9 p.m., 10 p.m. at night. But what I really was keen on was the hearing the person on the other end of the voicemail and their job title. That's what I was keen on. And 43 was this person, I won't mention his name. He said, well, hey, this is director of this branch. I'm like, that's the person I got to talk to. And then followed up a few days later, called that number, keep following up. And he picked up the phone. He said, hello. And then we had a quick conversation. I went down there, and a week later, I guess you can say the rest is history. And I was one of the youngest stockbrokers ever hired in the state of Arizona, and had an amazing run there for 3.5 years. Ended up being the top 2% producer in the entire West Coast before I pivoted to the next stage of my career. So that's that young 20s phase. So thank you for
I
asking that
love
question.
that. No,
Yeah.
that's amazing. It's interesting that you were willing to take the risk. Like you were willing to put
Mm-hmm.
yourself out there. And most people in society just want like those quick fix things. And people
Yeah.
are not willing to get their hands dirty.
Mm,
They're
100%.
not. It's, and it's really sad to see, like, especially when people have so much potential. It's kind of like the people that just constantly want that instant gratification. Like, oh, I'm not going to do this, it's too hard. Oh, no one's going
Yeah.
to hire me. You could have easily said that. No one's going to hire me. I don't have experience. But instead, you're like, let me figure my way out. And it's
Hmm.
also part of like, it's also part of manifestation too. And, I know you're really close to God. And for
100%.
me, I
Yeah.
always ask God for clarity. I always ask God, give me a sign, let me know I'm on the right track. And I love this quote and I use it all the time. I saw this on,
Please
it was like
share.
a meme. It was a
Yeah.
meme. It said, I prayed to God to give me a cake, but he gave me the ingredients.
Yes.
And I was like,
Yes,
oh,
love
it's
it.
so
Yes.
good. I was like,
That is
oh,
so good. Yes. Yes.
so good because
Yeah.
we just
Mhm.
want everything to be given to us on a gold plated platter. We're not willing to do the
Hmm.
work. We're not willing to do all that. And it's like, yeah, he gave you the ingredients because you got to figure out the recipe.
That's right.
So
That's 100%.
it's true. And that is amazing that you put that energy into that job. Like, because how you do anything is how you do everything. So just putting
Yeah.
that energy in that job and look what you were able
Hmm.
to manifest, an
Hmm.
amazing job that you were essentially looking for. So that's
Yeah.
amazing. That's
Thank you. Thank you
amazing.
for
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
Yeah.
Now let's go into your podcast
Sure.
because
Yeah.
your podcast, after, do you still are you still in that with that company, or that you said that was your early 20s?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
So I'll give a kind of a like a 5,000 word footnote on that. And I want to get back to your podcast question. So after that, I decided, long story short, I ended up getting fired from it. Sometime again, one of my will faults in life is I tend to break rules, and sometimes I tend to
Hmm.
neglect. And part of it is a self-inflicted, all a part of it was just really unfortunate situation that someone had to make an example out of someone, and that was one of the best things that's ever happened to me. Because if you obviously you talk to me now, God's important. I'm all about like furthering his kingdom, have a combination of confidence and humility. Back then it was only confidence. It was confidence and arrogance. There was no humility involved in my early 20s. And that actually allowed me to find God right after that identity lost. I was really to be able to find the most important relationship in my life. Fast forward that a little bit, I transferred into a industry where I said to myself, okay, I'm not so keen on always making sales, but I do want to make a difference, make an impact. And there's just so many other different avenues. I transfer into cybersecurity. I also have a real estate business on the side, something I built over the years, and that's more on the passive end. And then really earlier this year, I'm in my mid 30s now. Earlier this year, it's in a stage now where I said to myself, I look myself in the mirror and I ask God, okay, what are your plans for my life? Where do you want me? Because it's not always about me at the end of the day. It's about how I can submit to you so your kingdom can be really projected out through me. Let me be a conduit. Let me be a servant. And it started off as a Bible study just out of my home. And we then invite people as guest speaker from the church, from the community, business owners, relationship coach, all of that. And then I came to realize people would get bummed out that they're not able to attend on certain days. I really want to hear this person speak. I really want to get involved, but I'm not there. I can't be there physically. So that morphed into a podcast where we start recording it live out of my house, literally just transformed part of my house into a podcast studio with a goal to make an impact, with a goal to serve further God's kingdom and also make earth a little bit more like heaven through practical tools, life lessons and experiences that we can make a difference in people's life. And it's been such a rewarding journey because I shared with you one of the things that really lights me up on this podcast, even though that, hey, I have a full-time day gig. I've got a real estate business. So they're very blessed in that on that end. But what really lights me up is the impact I get to make in other people's life. When I see a comment it's like, oh, this is just exactly what I needed. What this person said right here made a such difference. I was just going through that. And then this made sense because what the guest you brought said that or this. And every person's story is unique, but when you are able to connect with people, even though if it's just a comment, even though if it's just acknowledgement, it makes all the difference in the world. It really lights me up that I want to continue doing this, but also go on a bigger scale. Recently just got on YouTube and then launching that platform and seeing what that looks like. But ultimately, when it's all said and done, really the goal is make heaven a little bit more like earth. And then how can we make impact to people's lives, make a difference? Because at the end of the day, someday I do hope to meet them in heaven and say, hey, I might not know you on a personal level, but I'm glad that I got a chance to serve you. I'm glad I got a chance to pour into you and help you gotten from point A to point B. And stories like that, to me, that's the currency in heaven. It might not be the currency on earth, but it'll be there in heaven.
I love that. I love that so
Yeah.
much. Yeah, I
Yeah.
always say this. If my work can impact at least just one person,
Yeah.
bring value to at least just one person, someone that needed to hear that message that day, then you're doing your job.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
always
Love that attitude.
so my yeah, and a lot of people, there's nothing wrong with thinking abundantly. Absolutely nothing wrong with that. Money is oxygen. We need it. It's a great
100%.
resource. We need it to provide and keep everything together. But it's not everything. And I think when you work from a place of love, passion, and purpose, like purpose driven instead of like money driven, then that's where you shine. Like that's where the massive impact happens, honestly. And then the money just, everything else comes into place like it should. But that is the ultimate goal, like in my eyes, when I see people doing work and having podcasts and just like helping people out there, it's like, wow, I want to do this. We get to do this and we get to be part of that
Yes.
contribution. Yeah,
Yes. 100%.
100%.
And you are making impact. You are already on that journey, and I am beyond
Thank you.
thrilled for you, Emma. Yeah. For you,
Thank
and
you.
for the guys that are listening to Emma, she literally just started out of her home with a humble story, with a heart of service, wishing to make an impact in you all's life. And I hope you get a chance, if you guys get a chance to drop her a comment, drop her a like, and show her some love, because
Thank you.
your home gal deserve it. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. You
Yeah.
too. You, of course. Yeah. Kevin, so let's talk a little bit about how your journey with God.
Yeah.
Because for me, I don't really label myself. I grew up Catholic. But my family, they never really took me to church. I think I went to church like one time when I was a kid, but it was very like a strict, type of church. And my mother and my father were not really religious in that aspect. So
Yeah.
I've always been close. Like I've always, had conversations with God, like even when I was little. This year recently, when I decided fully to be committed in the sense of like having that relationship with him and talking to him every day.
Let's
And
go.
yes. So I'm learning. I'm a full-blown new student
Yes.
in this realm, in this area. So I'm always open to learning more about that. So if you can just explain a little bit about your journey with God and how did it start? What was that pivotal moment? All right, guys, we'll get right back into the episode. I just wanted to take a quick break here to share with you guys that I do not make any money on this podcast. My goal and my purpose with Inherent Success is to be that guide for individuals in their self-discovery journey. So if you found any value in this episode, make sure to like, to subscribe. And if you know anyone that could benefit from the episode or the podcast overall, you can share with a friend as well. Now, let's get back into it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Probably my favorite question right here. This is a topic I could go on for an hour, but I want to be respectful of
No, go
audience's
for
time
it.
right here. So I'll give the highlights right here. So remember when I said I got fired? This is going back to it. Now I'm roughly about 27 years old. in this point in my life. Absolutely crushed it. I was top 2% producer. Financially, at this point, I owned a few rental properties, was doing pretty well on that end. And then, as you can imagine, when everything you poured your life into disappears, you begin having an identity crisis. And that's what happened to me.
Mm.
Financially, I was set, had a great family, but my self-worth was like, okay, I was this big stockbroker guy, but now what am I going to do? I certainly don't want to go back to that industry again. And then I realized, okay, what could I possibly do now that's really utilized my skill set? And also, I just didn't know. And when you don't know, you do what everybody else does. You go on these self-discovery trip.
Mm.
And it was during that moment I picked up a new hobby in Arizona. We don't have a lot of bodies of water here. I've always been fascinated by water and then really scuba diving, the stuff that's underneath the ocean. So I got certified and I started touring around the world, Australia, Cozumel, Southeast Asia. And it was really around after 3 months of it in Cozumel, Mexico specifically. One, you realize that after you see enough waterfalls, after you see enough amazing beaches, somewhere along the lines get blurred. They all kind of look the same in a sense, even though it's weird. I kind of say that, but they kind of do. And you begin to realize, seeing more beaches, going on more relaxation trip, going on more like scuba diving, going on more of all this. There's got to be more to life than just simply put vacationing and enjoyment. And this was such a good timing part of my life because it showed me what retirement looks like. Because I think so many people, they work 50, 60 years to get to that stage. I was very fortunate. I got a glimpse of it. I took a bite of it for a period of 3 months in my life in my late 20s, able to have the luxury to do that. And I'll never forget this. I was on a boat and kind of going back to self-worth, self-identity, ocean breeze just washing by your hair. Imagine that, guys. Emerald water. But somewhere along the journey, I was so used to that. Imagine seeing that for 3 months every single day. You kind of got used to that.
Wow.
And then you look up the star one night, and I realized one of my favorite movie growing up was The Lion King. And there was a scene in the movie that was very extremely profound when Nala found Simba. She was out in the jungle, just kind of lost, just doing too much Hakuna Matata, just cruising through life. And then Simba came to realize that, hey, I'm meant for more than that. And that's when he looked up in the stars. He said, his father, Mufasa, shows up. He's like, Simba, remember who you are. You're the king of the jungle. And then basically just give this affirmation of self-worth to him that remember who you are. And it was like that journey for me when I look up to God. That's when I got really close to God. I always had a traveling Bible with me. I was kind of very lukewarm Christian at that time. I go to church like maybe once a month prior to that. And that night, same thing. I closed my eye. God almost just like whispered into my life. It's Kevin. Remember who you are. I created you as one of my greatest creations, and I have such a big life planned ahead of you. And in that journey, as I find God, start reading my Bible, pouring into it, I begin then discovering my identity in Christ, because the person He created me to be is He already made me with this destiny. Even though I was in my parents' womb, I had this destiny ahead of me. And sometimes in life, you begin to wonder, well, I'm on the wrong path. I'm deviating the wrong way. I certainly felt that during that stage of my life. I certainly felt a little bit shameful, a little bit of guilt. I also forgot to mention that I weighed about 195 pounds at that time. I'm 5'7", and 195 pounds. You can imagine that's like a 34-inch, 36-inch waist. I was a chubby kid back then. And so a lot of bit of self-shame as well with all of that. And when I really found my identity in Christ, I start pivoting around and realizing that, okay, I got to step into my personal greatness, what that looks like. And when I got back to Arizona, I think everything changed. I no longer had a desire to really go traveling I still love it to this day, but I no longer had a desire to go on these self-discovery trips. It was, okay, I got to enroll and get my master's. I got to go to gym 5 days a week. I start really embracing discipline because, and that's usually the easiest route for anyone that wants to turn around is to start hitting the gym, start training, because you're going to start seeing results the fastest that way. And then you can start applying that core concept into all the areas of your life. Obviously, going to church every week, surround yourself with good people and so forth. So going through this route, as my faith continues to grow in Christ, giving myself grace, I think another thing I came then to realize is that everything you try to do on your own, you're only going to get so far. But the moment you start submitting to God, the moment you start, says in the book of Proverbs, that as you know, a man makes his plan, God directs his steps. And if you trust the Lord with all your heart and all your mind, and that He will, He will guide you, He will sustain you. And so just going along this journey throughout like one step at a time. And ironically, I felt peace. I felt peace in this journey. I felt fulfillment in this journey. And even to this day today, I continue to set aside time that are non-negotiable between God and myself, where I read the Bible, I journal a bit, and I just spend quality time with them. Because I think a lot of formula in the world that we're in today, where we're just so bombarded by distraction, if you can have that quality time, and maybe you're not religious, you're listening to this, but if you can have that quality time with the people that really matters in your life, you can have that quality time being alone, you're really going to be able to tap into your purpose, your identity, and at least start there versus constantly being pulled at 8,000 directions and being influenced, because at the end of the day, every distraction wants something from you, whether it's your time, whether it's they want you to buy something, whether they want you to believe one way politically or not, or about company or not. So when you realize that it's all they want to influence you to something, when was the last chance you get to influence yourself into your own self-worth? When you start putting that as a priority, everything else kind of fall in place.
I love what you said there, the distractions, because at the end of the day, the distractions is escaping from your reality. A lot of people
Yeah.
don't want to face their stuff, you know?
Yeah.
And most people don't want to have that realization. It's like, okay, I get to do the work. I have to do the work in order to become a different kind of person if I want to achieve certain things in my life. And what you said also, like, I believe that we do have to go through certain things in our life, and God and the universe, if you're listening, whatever you may believe in, whatever that may look like to you, it's going to pull you in different directions until you figure out like what's your true purpose.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you're going to need to go through like the different roads. Okay, maybe I'll go this way, but then you feel that it's not in alignment with you. And when it's not in alignment, when you don't feel good, it just means that that purpose, that thing that you're chasing is not in alignment with who you truly are here to become. Because we all have a special gift, and that's what inherent success is all about. We all have this special gift within us to achieve everything that we've ever wanted in life. We get to discover that. And we all have the ability to discover that. We just haven't tapped into it yet. And you can.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So I love that journey that you've had leading up to your relationship with God. So my question would be, so like what would be like the best advice for the people that are listening going into, you know, developing that relationship with God and getting closer to God, if that's something that they're interested in?
Yeah. So I think that's such a profound question, because the answer will be different for people. For everybody's going to have different. In my case, and I don't believe this is the majority, but in my personal case, is one, finding humility. Confidence was never a problem for me growing up. You guys heard, hey, like to break rules, like to challenge your system. So I was pretty ingrained in that. But for me, it was embracing humility and letting God take the lead of my life. That was probably the biggest piece. But I truly think the advice for people out there, that's even bigger problem than humility, is worth, your self-worth. And then if you're able to find out, knowing that God made you in His image, He breathed His life into you, you are His finest creation. If you really understood that, because you're so unique, that I always say this to people, is that AI can do so much. There's pretty much anything in this world. We gotten so advanced with technology, whether it's the farming, medical, technology sector, you name it. The list goes on. But know that there will never be anyone as unique as you. And at the end of the day, really the most powerful thing that you will ever own is yourself. Whether you're on a sales pitch, you're applying for a job, whether you are asking a gal or guy out, whether you are doing whatever endeavor that is might look like for you, remember that the most valuable proposition that you have is yourself, because you're the most uniquely thing that God's ever created. That should give yourself worth to step into that arena and show up the best version of yourself. And that's not to say that you're going to crush every arena, because you'll soon realize, hey, that arena, again, going back to what I said earlier, is not for me. That battle for someone else's, maybe the fight's God's. He got me in this arena, not in that one. So then having discernment which arena to go into, which battle to fight in life. But the first step is just understanding your self-worth, that you're uniquely made and he made you for a reason. He made you for a purpose. And usually when people get stuck in a rut somewhere, kind of going back to people that are maybe having a little challenging to discover the inherent success, I'll say this as well, is when God's got you in a season where you feel like, oh man, I'm just rock bottom. Oh man, things are... Can't get any worse here, Kevin. Can't get any worse here, Emma. Just remember that God has you there for two things. One is he either has you in that season so you can save someone, so you can help someone, and you are uniquely qualified to help that person get from point A to point B. Or two, there's a lesson he's trying to teach you in that season of darkness. And sometimes it's a combination of both. And when you kind of understood that, that's really the trajectory that helps you get out of that season.
I agree. Yeah, life is always rigged in your favor, that's for sure.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah. And to me, it also requires vulnerability. And there's a lot of shame around vulnerability, that vulnerability is weakness and, oh no, that's not for me. That's not for me. But there's so much power in vulnerability, because there's a difference between weak vulnerability and strong vulnerability. But part of being a leader and leading with God is vulnerability. Like being willing to build that relationship with him and trusting him is being vulnerable and trusting the process. Yeah. That's how I see it. And it's interesting how you keep saying the arena. To me, life is the arena. It's a game that we're playing. And a lot of times when we're in that game, we're in the arena, not a lot of people are willing to go in the arena and play the game. And when they're in the arena,
they're spectators.
Yeah, they're in the arena. They hear all the people from the sidelines and the people in the how do you call those blood seats? What's that word?
I know what you're saying.
Bleachers.
It's like the crowd's cheering it. Yeah, bleachers.
Yeah, from the bleachers. So it's important when you're once you're in there, you're vulnerable. You're having this relationship with God. You're in your journey of transformation. It's important to stay in that arena and not listen to anyone in the sidelines. I always see it this way. It's like, if you're not in this game with me, don't tell me anything.
That's right.
Just don't say anything, because you don't know what it takes to play this game.
Yeah. So, and metaphorically speaking, this is our arena. And then the audience right here on the sideline, or internet comments when they see it, that they're, some people will like us, some people not so much, but that's all right.
Yeah.
It's we're not for everybody.
Yeah. And I think a lot of it too is people maybe don't want to get close to God because they're afraid of judgment. They're afraid of doing something different. It's like they're so accustomed to having this group of friends that just want to do things that are not in alignment with them, but they do it anyways because they're just sucked into that environment, because you do become like the 5 people you hang out with. So if you're constantly hanging out with people that, put you down, that are very negative, that are just conditioned to society norms, then it's going to be very difficult for you to get out of that, unless you have a strong mindset and you're just willing to do that. But most people are afraid to make that change because of being judged. I don't know if you agree with that, or if you've seen that before.
Yeah. And also, I think to elaborate on what you said, it's really hard, because kind of go back to your point. It's like we show up as a kid. I look at it as a kid. yeah, we're brand new to school, and you can metaphorically apply this to any stage of your life. You meet these people. This could be a new job environment. This could be a personal development seminar, M&I, and this could be
Mm-hmm.
anything. And then sometimes the good habits rub off on you. Sometimes the bad habits rub off on you. You have to discern, hey, did my heavenly Father teach me to act this way? Is it okay to be deceitful? Is it okay to slander? Is it okay to, kind of spit on the ground and then be disrespectful? And then you start having these internal dialogue, and always remember that as much as we embrace inherent success, understanding that God gave you a brain so you can also apply critical thinking to just about anything in life, because that's really the pathway to freedom. If you're not able to apply critical thinking and really have a self-awareness to kind of gauge the situation we're in, you're just going to get influenced by people. And we've seen too many kids, so many of our good friends going through high school, you've all been there, had this amazing potential, but end up hanging out with the potheads. And look at what happened 5 years from there. Hey, that person has so much potential, but end up being a party hardy. All that person does is drink and alcohol, smoke all day, and it's extremely sad. So,
Yeah.
and then to answer your question, it's like, well, how do you get out of that? It's challenging. I think you gotta have a self recognition, and I think that's really an area that if you're mindful going into it, if you're protective of your closest five people that you surround yourself with, community is everything. That's really going to help, rather than you showing up at a playground and being influenced by the bad habits of whomever shows up at that playground.
Absolutely. And it all comes down to taking 100% ownership and taking
Hmm.
the initiative to make those changes for yourself and just to take
Yeah,
action.
yeah,
Yeah. Now, I know we're running out a little bit of time. It's such a good conversation, but I
no,
would love
bring it.
to
Yeah.
hear, yeah, so I would
Mhm.
love to hear what is your vision and what is
Mhm.
your goal? Where do you see yourself with your podcast, with just sharing the message of God and leading with God?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for that. So the vision is really to make heaven a little bit more like, make earth a little bit more like heaven. Continue to make impact in people's life. Hopefully, we have a greater outreach. We can make a greater impact on multiple platforms now. But ultimately, it kind of goes back to that everybody that I encounter, and this doesn't have to be just a podcast. This really more and more like my life has been some of the key important one-on-one relationships in my life that I'm really got a chance to pour into. Because also what I realized outside of podcasts is you guys might not recognize, but I'm actually introvert. I guess I'm an omnivore. I have an extrovert inside of me, but I need my close like 3 to 4 hours a day where I need to decompress and then be able to do my own thing to kind of recharge my own battery. And it's in those times I began to realize that there's more than one way to skin a cat here, because I think everybody is going to, okay, how can I have this massive audience, or maybe how can I have this super successful person on my podcast? Well, what I came to realize is, what if I just invest in someone? What if I pour into someone and that person can then, by extension, flourish? Because one of the gifts that I had a chance to really witness in my life is I'm pretty good at encouraging people, and I'm pretty good at seeing Jesus in people. I'm able to see the spiritual gift in people, essentially. And when I recognize someone that just got like this amazing capability, it says, I want to pour into this person a bit. Let's see the ripple effect of this person's about to make. And hey, atmosphere right now, and then you're about to witness a ripple effect that she's about to make in the future. You just watch
Yes.
out. This girl's coming at you. So stuff like that,
Mm-hmm.
and doesn't have to be a massive audience, but just making connection and then investing into the leaders of the next generation as well as the stuff I do, because at the end of the day, we're all one big team, force for good, force for love, force for inspiration, and furthering kingdom of God. Yeah.
I love that. And they
Mhm.
always say it's like with one person you can do a little bit, you can do a lot,
Mhm.
but with many you can do so much more.
That's
I
right.
love
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
Hmm.
And I know you've talked a lot about baptism.
Yeah.
So what
Yeah.
is your vision with baptism and your
Yeah,
goals?
such a great question. I love how you ask the personal questions. So I look at my life, And I began asking myself one day, okay, Kevin, what are some metrics or what are some quantifiable numbers that I'm really happy with? I'm really thrilled with. Because there's KPIs in every organization, there's quarterly earnings. So I started kind of applying that in my life. Well, money certainly, wouldn't make that list. Impact is hard to quantify because I don't know how many people I truly impacted. I don't. So then I began looking at, okay, the person that are closest to my life, the people that I'm in close proximity of, how did I impact them? And then it came to two different sets of numbers. One being that how many people did I set them up on their marriage? And I had the honor setting up two of my friends for their significant others. So, which is really four people setting them up for marriage. And I'm really thrilled and excited about that, make a difference and just bring them happiness and bliss on that. And the other number would be the number of people I baptized in my life. And this is a journey I want to continue to thrive more in because in that role, I've never really solicited. It's always been an honor and privilege of a lifetime every time when someone asks me for a chance to baptize them. And that's happened 3 times in my life. And each time it's a life story, lifelong memories I'll take with me forever that have the honor and privilege to baptize, go in the water with them, baptize in the name of the Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit, and then just be able to come up with them and able to open that new door in their relationship with God. I want more of that in life. I want to set up more marriages. I want to set up these more meaningful events. Maybe I'll add in more of these metrics down the road, but right now those are the two I think of. Love to add more down the road. Maybe, be there for elderly of some sort. I'll come up with another metric down the road.
I love that. And there's so much
Yeah.
beauty in transformation.
Hmm.
So just being
Hmm.
able to baptize people and see their light and see that transformation. I know for me, when
Absolutely.
I was a coach and I was
Hmm.
helping people lose weight and like just transform, it was just so amazing. It felt so beautiful, like getting text messages from women that said, "Hey, I haven't worn a two-piece in a
Mm.
long time. I'm wearing one
Let's
today."
go.
And they
Let's
take a
go.
picture and they send it. So it's just like those
Yes.
those type of messages. It's
Hmm.
so priceless. It's just like
Hmm.
the best feeling ever. Like you're really changing someone's
Yes.
life. Yeah, I love
Yes.
that. So
Yes.
let's go a little bigger. Maybe this
Okay.
may not be your vision, but if
Yeah. Bring
you
it. Yeah.
if you had, let's say, a little magic wand, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And you
Yeah.
okay.
Thumbs up. Within
Thumbs up, there
seconds
you
of doing
go.
that. Yeah. Magic
So
wand,
if you
baby.
had a little
Yeah.
magic wand
Mm.
and you had an opportunity to create something that can really expand your vision with God and making a massive impact outside of your podcast. Well, hey, you can throw a number with your podcast, but something outside of your podcast, what would that be?
Oh, that's such a beautiful question because I literally had a wand. I literally created a PowerPoint of that. I call it my vision board. But the funny part about vision board, when you are thinking on that big of scale, and for those of you that maybe have done through this experience, maybe you guys can relate as well. I've literally changed that like 3 times. And that's all that's to say, maybe a year or two from now, that will change again. So I'll tell you some of the ones that I thought would be so amazing. One of it about like 3 years ago, because I've been in real estate, I thought about what if I just cashed in everything one day and then bought an island, like my own island in the Caribbean or something, and then build like a faith-based organization, a center of healing. And what we'll
Wow.
do is we'll have like a tourist section, but each year we'll have like a no cost or at cost section for people that are in churches that are really deserving. People, you submit an application, and once you accept it, we take you on, we absorb as much of the expense as we could. And in this journey, it'll be healing, it'll be therapy, it'll be massage, it'll be just kind of like this resort style living on this private island. And then obviously worship and all of that, being Christ and all motivational speaker, helping you turn around and also enjoy nature, go on hikes, scuba diving, all of that. So that was one of my vision 3 years ago. And who knows, maybe I'll bring that back again. And another one I have had is be able to host like a massive, like a summit, like a massive, and I know that's been done a lot in arenas already. So maybe to some sort of that end, but instead of bringing on like all these amazing guest speakers, because I think sometimes that's good, but also that's a little top heavy when it comes down to celebrities. I love to bring out true stories of people, how they really transformed, in addition to some keynote speakers. So people can see that, hey, if this person that I can super very much relate to can get from point A to point B, I can do it too. And the reason for that is because in my life, I think really the best advice came from people that are a few steps ahead, because the people who are tactically a few steps ahead, they're still in the grind with you. They're still in that phase of whatever, whether it's growing, whether you're in the process of selling, whatever that is. The people that's really made it, that are like so far ahead, they did that. They did what you did 15 years ago. And sometimes when you don't practice what you do, that's a muscle that's the market environment either changed, or they have such a big team, like three people under them does that stuff. They can't really help you in that specific area that you need help in. So all that's to say, maybe like a summit or massive seminar of some sort. That's like another dream. Yeah, I love to dream big. I love to have these amazing wishes,
That's
and
big. I
we'll
love
see how
it.
that happens. Yeah, combine the two, maybe like a private island with like a summit, and then fly people in. That'd be awesome.
Oh my
Yeah,
God. I love
yeah.
it. That is
Mhm.
huge. You did
Yeah.
not hold back.
No, no, I didn't. No, no, I didn't.
That's
Yeah.
amazing. So who would
Yeah.
be, I know you
Mhm.
said you didn't want to add any
Mhm.
speakers, but like who would be like your dream speaker at one of your summits or one of your healing
Yeah, yeah.
retreats?
Yeah, I would certainly add some, because there are people I really inspire to look up to, and I really think Ed Milet is on the top of that list. I think he's really living a life for in God's kingdom, and he's just an amazing speaker. I had a chance to listen to him live three times, twice front row. I was in tears both times, and I think really another force for good
He's
in this
awesome.
world is Jamie Kern Lima, her message on worthiness. I think she's touched the lives of so many millions of women that in a way that a lot of guys can't really connect women with, and she's so powerful in that space. So maybe also some like a top two that name off right now. But again, things could change in like in a few years, depending on how things goes. Yeah.
Ed Milet is really good.
Yeah, he's
He's
amazing.
he is like, wow. Every time I hear him on a
Yeah,
podcast or just an interview, I'm like, wow, this man is powerful. He just makes
he
you
is.
like everything that he says, I'm like, oh my God, that's so true. Oh my God. Oh my God. I
Yes.
love that. Maybe I can be at one of your
Yes.
retreats.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, it's happening. Yeah. Mhm.
Yes, I love that for you. So,
Mhm.
Kevin, what
Mhm.
does inherent success mean to you?
Yeah. Inherent success means embracing the gifts that God's given you already, understanding that you are
Mm,
uniquely qualified to serve the purpose or capacity of the challenges, the endeavor ahead of you. Or maybe this is on your journey to success, but you're uniquely qualified in that capacity that no one else can do the role that you're capable of doing. When you embrace that, you step into that, then you begin to realize that, okay, I am capable, I am worthy, and I am able to accomplish this, mountain that's in front of me.
I love that. That's so
Hmm.
beautiful.
Yeah.
All right, Kevin. Well, thank you so much. This was such an
Yeah.
amazing conversation. Thank you so much for your time. I know we have a 3 hour difference, but I loved this
Yeah.
conversation. And guys, if you found any value in this episode, if you're listening, press the subscribe button so you can stay tuned for the next episode as well. And then also the like button to support this channel. And Kevin, where can everyone find you?
Yeah, probably the easiest way is on YouTube, Level Up with Kev. That's kind of been my focus lately, just publishing my stuff on the YouTube format. So you guys can connect with me there. Also, the Mighty Life podcast, and I'm sure that'll be in the description as well. And Emma, I just want to acknowledge you, actually. I want to recognize your vulnerability. I want to recognize your willingness just stepping into this arena with a passion of service. You guys all seen how authentic she is. You all seen that how she's just showing up. Yes, she's a mom. Yes, she's got a day job, but she's working like 9 p.m. at night to make a difference in your life, guys. This is like
Thank
9 p.m. her time. And remember, like earlier you talked about instant gratification. I always say that, hey, the turtle wins the race at the end of the day, and she's
you.
literally putting that in right here, right this moment. So if that's not inspiration for you all, I don't know what is. So yeah, be sure to hit that subscribe button. Show your girl some love. Give her a comment, or even better, I'm gonna actually give you all a challenge. If this message really inspired you, I invite you to give her a DM on how this message inspired you. Write her a love note, and then I'm sure it will make her day.
Thank you, Kevin. Oh, you're
Yeah,
awesome. Oh my God, this was amazing. Thank you so much. You're
yeah,
such a beautiful friend.
yeah.
I'm so
Anytime,
grateful
anytime.
for
I got
you.
you. Yeah, anytime.
Alrighty,
All
guys. Thank
right,
you so
sounds
much for
good.
watching. Okay.
Take care. Bye.